Hey everyone, Sam from TNM here. I'm finally doing one of these vinyl tap videos that has been a bit long overdue for me. I don't know, a bit awkward with this sort of stuff, but yeah, gonna talk through my record collection or some of it. I know Perrin and Alec have done some of these already and shown some of the cool stuff they own. Figured might as well show off some of the cool stuff I've got. This first one for me probably going to be focused on some of my more recent purchases, as well as just a couple of other like overview bits for stuff in my record collection. So figured might as well get started on this. I'll probably do more in depth things as I go on with these, and yeah, but we'll start with my very latest record purchases. There's two of them I bought literally this weekend when I was in HMV. The first is Knock Loose, fragments of a Tear in the Fabric of Life. What am I calling it? The wrong thing. Yeah, the new EP that I was, if you listen to the TNM Awards and stuff, really big on this. I think Knock Loose have been really good. I still think I still rate the debut album so highly. It's silly, but the growth they've done has been really impressive, and I think this EP might legitimately be the best thing they've done. Um, the vinyl is like a nice gatefold, cool like photos and stuff. The whole stark red and black photography thing. That's one thing they've absolutely nailed on this EP is the visual aesthetic to go along with the record is really cool, and that extends across to the actual vinyl itself. No, just get this. So yep, again, it's the red and black looks nice. I'm always a fan of a nice coloured pressing, and the other thing. I don't really have it right now because of this, but it's got a cool like etching on the back on the other side with the album title and all that, which is pretty neat if you ask me. This EP has just been such a like huge step forward for Knock Loose, and I am really excited to see sort of where they go next. I would love for them to build on this more like sort of structured and cohesive songwriting that they have gone on to from this record. Like the growth, like I've said this on the podcast before, but the growth from them being the half mosh call band to the band who can write a sort of a really like cohesive. It's 6 tracks, but it is one body of work, especially when you watch it with the video, which is great. And yeah, can't wait to see the songs off this live. I think Knock Loose are going to be really onto something. Like I hope the album is not too far off because like this is a great taster, but I want more of this. But it was just one when I saw, I was like, oh, I need this in my record collection because I've got the debut album. I haven't actually got the second Knock Loose album. I need to get that at some point. But this one really impressed me, and that brings me on to my second record that I purchased at the same time as this, which is Heavy Steps by Comeback Kid. I will like this a lot on the podcast. I was kind of just like, it's Comeback Kid being wicked because they always are, and I stand by that. But since we recorded the show, what was it like 2 weeks ago? I have had this on so much, especially in the week since it's come out, and I've just been able to get on Spotify. Comeback Kid are the sort of band I'll stick their records on, and they will just make me go. Like, a few bands get me as sort of just like psyched up and hyped, and like make me walk, like put that extra bit of pace in my step. Like the moment I hear that, just that rumbling bass intro to the title track, and then just get the heavy steps on hollow ground bit. Like, it just makes me want to like jump up and down. No Easy Way Out is so hard. But yeah, I think Comeback Kid are wicked, and this is another just great album from them. It's kind of given more as I've listened to it, and I've kind of gone, well, there are like, because I said on the thing, you're not going to get many surprises from Comeback Kid, but they just so good at what they do. But I have kind of like got more from it as I've listened, and this is on a nice white vinyl. I do love. One thing I want to say, I love how sort of like loud and 90s the artwork is for this record. It's proper obnoxious and has that kind of like bright, vibrant coloured 90s aesthetic, which again I'm well into. But yeah, go out there to cancel the tour for this. Hopefully they'll come back soon. But this has been one that has been again since I've got it, just a regular listen for me, and I just really am so hyped with what Comeback Kid are doing. There's like I said, the cross with Joe Duplantier, that's still like a really cool guest spot, but not massively out of the realms of the ordinary for Comeback Kid. They do this stuff all the time. Yeah, Comeback Kid being great, If you've not checked this record out yet, do give it a spin because it's so good. And that actually leads on quite nicely to the next record I'm going to talk about. It's one I bought last year. but it's another band we talked about on the latest episode of the podcast, which was Billy Talent, and now this is their record Dead Silence, which is like we raved about on the podcast how good the sort of the opening run on the new album Crisis of Faith is, and I stand by those 3 songs in particular that open it being among the best Billy Talent songs in a long time. But I think you could say the very similar thing about this record, because when it opens, like, I mean, you got Lonely Road to Abolition, which is like an intro track, but when the Viking Death March hits, and I still think that is one of the like very, very top tier Billy Talent songs. That song is so brilliant, and same with Surprise Surprise. But I genuinely think this album holds up really well. Like, it's another one. This was the first one after the sort of the classic, we'll say, the numbered albums, which like most Billy Talent fans will tell you is their best work, and I think it's hard to argue against that really, because those albums are pretty damn iconic, especially the first 2. I think they're untouchable classics. But Dead Silence is better than a lot of people give it credit for. Like, maybe I'm just biased so much I love Billy Talent, but I think this album's got a lot more going for it than what you might sort of first get. Again, really nice blue sort of cloudy pressing, goes, like I said, very nicely with the actual artwork. It's a double LP. This sounds really good. I've been like, it's the only Billy Talent album I own on vinyl, and it's one that I've been missing. Like, every time they repress their albums, it always seems to come at awkward periods when I've not got the money to buy them or whatever. But this was one, when this happened, when I saw this was getting a pressing, I was just like, I still rate Dead Silence loads as a Billy Talent album, and I had to get in on it. And I'll probably keep an eye out and grab some of the other ones when they get repressed, because they repress them every couple of years, and I particularly need to get 1 and 2 in my collection, because those 2 albums are really brilliant. Billy Talent, great. But basically, if you were digging Crisis of Faith, go back to Dead Silence, because I think there's more to offer from this album than its reputation suggests. And yeah, like, if anyone who watches this, like, if you like, get on the TNM Discord or whatever and chat about this album, because Billy Talent are wicked. But I'll talk for a couple of other purchases I made in the last couple of months, which was when work decided to move me to a shop that is 5 minutes down the road from my favourite record store, and what I would say is the best record store in the London area, Banquet Records. Like, not just because it's a great record store with a great selection, but Banquet basically run the music scene in Kingston. They do an amazing job, and awesome place. Really friendly staff who know their stuff, and they put on great gigs. Like, all the gigs I went to in sort of the last part of last year were run by Banquet Records, so that meant seeing Rise Against do an acoustic set, seeing Bury Tomorrow play, Yumi at 6 playing Hold Me Down in Full. Like, I know, but whatever, that album bangs. That was a really good show. But yeah, so Banquet Records are great. I just a little plug for them. But I basically, working down the road from them meant I was going to be going in there a fair bit, and I did, and bought myself a couple of records. And the first one, like, God, I can't believe I have to be sad when I talk about this record. And I mean, I've talked about this record quite a lot in the last like few shows, but it's of course Radical by Every Time I Die, my album of 2021. Like, God, I still love this album, but man, I wish I could talk about it under different circumstances, because Every Time I Die imploded in the last couple of weeks, and man, it just sucks. It's just such a bummer that that's the way it had to go. But I don't want to dwell on that, because that is just a really lame like sort of situation. Instead, we could just take another chance to talk about how great this album is, and also how nice the record is, because it's just this lovely neon pink record. I'm always like it perfectly fits again the visuals of the record, but big pink garish color. Yeah, I'm in on it. Radical by Every Time I Die. It's like, in a way, it's almost fitting that this might be the last Every Time I Die record, because we talked about on the show how this is the most Every Time I Die. It's all eras of Every Time I Die happening at once across one mammoth record, and that's what it is. And like, on one hand, you kind of think, well, it would have been amazing if they bowed out with a song like Map Change on Low Teens, because that would have been like the perfect end note on a career. And I've sort of said before, like, I almost wish Every Time I Die had been given the Dillinger sort of send off, where they release their best album and then bow out playing the best shows and end it on their terms. Wasn't meant to be of Every Time I Die, but I'm still glad that we got one last record that is as good as Radical. I mean, like I say, Dark Distance is an opener. Like, I'm gutted I'm never going to be able to, I mean, who knows what the future holds, but I'm not anytime soon going to be able to scream Spare Only the Ones I Love, Slay the Rest, and then just headbang and punch someone when that riff drops, because God, it's so good. Um, and there's so much of like Sly Planet S word. I don't know. Can I swear on these YouTube things? Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, like so much cool stuff on this record, and it's a shame that it just wasn't meant to be. I think as well, this being it's a double LP, but it's only 3 sides. So if I go on to the side, yeah, it's good. Again, it's not as visible, but there is like an etching on this of like a lightning bolt sort of thing, which again is just part of the whole like radical like aesthetic of this record. So yeah, man, every time I die, gonna miss them, but I hope they come back. And also, again, nice like gatefold LP. I think the Billy Talent one was, and I didn't show that off, but yeah, you know, I'm rambling on anyway. The other like TNM relevant record I bought from Banquet was one of the best emo albums ever, Casually Dressed and Deep in Conversation by Funeral for a Friend. This album is amazing, and 2021, seeing Funeral for a Friend live at Slam Dunk completely just reinvigorated how much I love this band, as well as doing that album club we did on the latter albums. But I love this album. It is just amazing songs, start to finish. Again, lovely gatefold LP, double LP. This is part of the repressings they did for these when they did the box set of the sort of iconic free Funeral for a Friend albums, and then did them all individually as well. I think the individual pressings are black only, which is, you know, I'm fine with a black LP. I like nice coloured ones, but sometimes, you know, you just have to go for a nice black LP. But I needed this record in my collection. It's one that it got pressed on Record Store Day a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh, I need to pick that up, and then didn't because I didn't have the money to. And then every time I was like, it was sort of sat in record shops, and I kept seeing. I was like, oh, I'll get that one day. And then the one time I actually go to get it is when it's like no longer there. And I was like, of course it's meant to be. But yeah, Funeral for a Friend, Casually Dressed in Deeper Conversation. If you're going to tell me that the opening run of Rookie of the Year, Bullet Theory, and Juno isn't perfection of like this sort of thing, then I think you're a bit silly, because this album is amazing, and Funeral for a Friend just nailed it on this. And it's like I'm fine with them coming back and doing the nostalgia run. You know, they're killing it on that. Like their Slam Dunk set was just like the greatest of greatest hits for this sort of thing, and I had the best time doing it. And when it got to that bit in Juno, and everyone is just singing it, and the band just kind of stop and let it take it all in, man, that's just such a good song. But yeah, glad to finally have this one in my collection. And the last one I bought from Bank Records, well, I won't spend long on this because this is not a TNM record, but I had to show off anyway because I'm a Swiftie, and it's Red, Taylor's version, because I love Taylor Swift. I love this album. This is probably my favourite Taylor Swift album. And, you know, I just thought it was cool that she's done these, like, fully in-depth versions. This is, like, 4 LPs. And, I mean, the big selling point for this is the 10-minute version of All Too Well, which is the best thing Taylor Swift has ever done. Like, being able to take that song and turn it into this really, like, heartbreaking long-form song piece is incredible songwriting. And she does write her own songs, Damon Albarn. Topical. But, yeah, we won't spend long on this, but I just want to show off that I have the Taylor's version of Red, because I love this album. Back to TNM stuff. I'm rattling through these pretty quickly. I talk fast, I know. It's one of the things I always try and slow down on the podcast. But we've got this one, which is a pretty cool one. It's the 10 years of Fake History Let Live record, which is basically B-sides and demos from the Fake History recording sessions. I, again, have long established my love for Let Live and thinking they are one of the greatest bands ever. My favourite album is by Let Live. It's not Fake History if you haven't ever listened to that special. Again, this is going out to Patreon people, so I assume you must have all listened to my top 20. But yeah, Let Live were amazing. They had a perfect run while they were around, and it's just, you know, Fever 333 are cool. I really like Fever 333, but they're not Let Live. Let Live was special. And when I saw they were doing this as like a set where like I got a really nice long sleeve with it too, I had to get in on it. The LP, again, lovely sort of cloudy, clear blue pressing. But this is a kind of like completionist record is how I would sum this one up. There's nothing on here that I'd say is like totally essential, but like hearing early versions of stuff like Casino Columbus and 666.6 billion, and then like you get the B-sides like Lemon Party, which is one of the best Let Live songs, and I've seen them play it live once, and that was amazing. And I think it's great that Let Live have like B-sides that are better than what most bands could ever do in their entire catalogue. And there's demos in here that are better than what most bands could probably achieve, because Let Live were the best. And yeah, Let Live, listen to Let Live, and please Let Live come back soon. Again, like, I'll take a new Fever Free record, but next couple of years, Let Live, come back, because we miss you and we need you. On other albums that I've talked about in my top 20 of all time is Converge with the Jane Doe Live. And again, I want to just show this off because this is my favourite album artwork. This version of the Jane Doe artwork, I think, is just mind-blowingly good. This was the one that was recorded at Roadburn Festival, where they played Jane Doe in full, and like, it's one of the best albums ever played in full by a band who just sound terrifyingly heavy, and it's amazing. This one again, it's double LP, clear, just a plain clear old one, but you know, it's Jane Doe Live. What more can I say about Jane Doe that hasn't already been said? One of the best, most intense, heavy and emotionally sort of charged hardcore records ever by one of the best bands in hardcore. And I know, like I say, part of the mystery of, like, we know who she is now. It's wild, innit? But doesn't take away from the impact of this record for me. I think it is one of the best albums ever made, and like, having a live version of it with artwork this nice, hell yeah. Some of the other 2021 records that, again, I've talked about at length for, but that I was able to actually buy and get in my collection this year, starting with Architects, For Those That Wish to Exist, one of my favourite albums from last year. This was a Banquet Records purchase again, because it was buy the record and get a ticket to see them in a, like, intimate show. That show was kind of a bummer. Like, the Architects were great, but the sound was really poor on that night. But nice sort of cloudy purple record. I've just seen they're releasing the live at Abbey Road vinyl, and I'm gonna have to get that as well, because like, I really like this record. I think it's a really cool direction for Architects to go in. And I think they've shown that there is growth in their sound. They released a really definitive 3-album trilogy in Lost Forever to Holy Hell, and they had to do something different. They did it, and I think good results. Excited to see what comes next from Architects. But yeah, there's that. Another record that was included in my top 20 of 2021 is AFI Bodies. This is again just AFI being wicked. I'm glad to see this is one that people have sort of come round to, because I think it was quite a muted reception when it came out. But this is like cool sort of white and silver pressing, really nice, that goes really well with the album artwork and the whole vibe of the record. That just like noir, goth, like shimmering, like goth pop punk kind of vibe that AFI are going for now, and that they are wicked at. I'm really down for what AFI are doing. I hope they come to the UK at some point soon. And I think this album is just really, like, it's overlooked at how good it is at this point, this record. But as I said, more people are coming around to it, and I think it'll go down as one of those quite, like, AFI fans or like who are down with what the latter AFI will look at Bodies and go, Bodies was cool. That was a cool, like, period for AFI, that worthy of the praise it got. Another Banquet Records purchase so I could go to a gig, which, as I mentioned, was the Rise Against acoustic set, but this was Nowhere Generation. Again, this was this in my top 20? I can't remember if this was in my top 20 of the year now. I think it was, because I love Rise Against. Sort of cloudy pressing, big black splodge in the middle, looks nice. I'm a fan of nice looking record. This album, again, Rise Against just doing what Rise Against do and being very good at it. This is not my favourite Rise Against album, but they have an incredible back catalogue. This is just a really good latter day Rise Against record. And there are songs here that genuinely have not left my head since this album came out. Even like just album tracks like Sounds Like have just been so wedged in my head because they are massive, really great songs. And I'm really excited for what Rise Against do. Like, can't wait to see them live, play the songs live properly. They will always be one of my favourite bands. I will always be interested in what they're going to do. I even think like their lesser albums are pretty damn good, if you ask me. And then two more before I kind of wrap up on just the last few little bits from my record collection that I want to show off. Epica, Omega. This album, as we've established again, I think this is great. this has been the album that has fully converted me into an Epica fan after someone who kind of quite liked them because they did the Attack on Titan EP, and the previous album was pretty cool. Dark blue, cloudy, sort of marble effect record. I won't spend too long rambling on about this one because again, we like me and Perrin both had it in our top 20s of the year. But if you like big symphonic metal that is cheesy, even if you don't, I think this album actually has something. I was able to sell it to a mate who like never listened to Epica before. Was like, it sounds like Final Fantasy boss music, and it does. And if you understand that reference, you'll be like, oh cool, yeah, it does, because it's just massively overblown, kind of like heavy metal, but with like a lot of like fantasy sort of scope to it. Really cool record. I'm well in on Epica now. And last one, this is an album that actually Perrin mentioned in his album end of year awards about most improved, and I was like, you know what, yeah. And I overlooked this album when it came to my end of year awards. I really rate this album, which is Lifeblood by Brand of Sacrifice. We talked about some of the, I probably should have linked this in actually earlier when I was talking about like records that kind of link into the review show we did recently, because we talked about when it was like the Deathcore Friday where all the bands had to release their albums on the same day, and a lot of those albums were really cool. But I don't think any of those albums were quite as good as what Brand of Sacrifice have done here. This is for modern deathcore. This, like, we're talking like the newer wave of deathcore bands. I still think that Whitechapel album from last year might be the sort of the high mark for modern deathcore, but I wouldn't even call that deathcore necessarily. This is like deathcore through and through. It is the most obnoxious. I mean, like, right down to the artwork, is the most obnoxious, like moshing, like in your face deathcore. Again, even the colours on this one, like on the record for this, are proper like obnoxious, like that blue and red and with the splatter on it. It's cool. But this album, like, is just really good deathcore. Again, big like blown up gatefold print with like all the demon stuff. It's all referencing to Berserk. Like, Berserk is my favorite manga. I think it's for the best of what it is, and I think when a deathcore band can tap into that, it's gonna appeal to me. But this was when I was like, when I saw it, I was like, I should probably get that on my record collection. And then I didn't listen to it for a while because there was so much other stuff. And then when I was just going back from a record collection recently, I would listen to it. I was like, this album goes so hard. Like, and I thought worth mentioning when I talk through my record collection on this. Last two records now, and this is just some of the other stuff that like you'll find in like record collection. And a big one that I tend to have actually quite a lot of in my record collection is video game soundtracks. This is genuinely, they have tapped into the vinyl market and done some of the best releases. Like, I've got some really great video game soundtracks on vinyl. Great sound. Like, I mean, I think video game soundtracks are massively overlooked because like so many of the best moments in video games are that good because the soundtrack on them is so like makes those moments just as good as they are. And this is why I wanted to include a couple of them on here. But I figured, because with this is a metal show recently, I should probably start with the most metal video game soundtrack ever, which is Doom 2016. If you've never played like Doom, you're just running around hell, running around Mars and hell, shooting zombies and demons in the face with a shotgun and like, ripping their limbs off. It's well gnarly. And the soundtrack for this one, they just decided, well, like, oh well, let's listen to a load of Meshuggah and Industrial and just turn that into the soundtrack. And it is really hard. There is some tracks on this soundtrack that are like so like properly crushing, and it's like the whole satanic thing with the blood red vinyl and all that, like perfect for what the record is. But like, if you want an example, if you've never listened to the soundtrack, check out the track BFG Division. The riff on that with the synth pounding over it, imagine that as you're running around with like a chainsaw and a shotgun carving up and blasting demons, and you'll be like, that is the vibe of Doom 2016. Doom Eternal, its follow-up, had another equally very good soundtrack that kind of reused and repurposed a lot of these songs, and they sound wicked. Yeah, I've got a few other video game soundtracks that I will show off across the course of this thing. Again, like if you look at like the sleeves in it, there's a nice metal satanic artwork and all that. Really cool vibe. And the last record I will talk about here before I wrap up, gone on for about 25 minutes. That's all right for these sort of things, I guess. Is I also am a fan of like quite like, I don't want to say novelty, but film and TV show soundtracks. And I was looking for one of those to pick for the first one of these. And I was going around, I was like, I found the one because it's proper silly this, but it actually goes kind of hard. And it is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers soundtrack to the 90s TV series. This is one of those that's like properly cheesy, but I was like, I love Power Rangers. I've always loved Power Rangers. Like, I like kaiju mecha things. Like, I have a Gundam collection sat next to me, which I was tempted to just spend this video showing off. Maybe if we want to see my Gundam collection on a late one of these, I will happily do that. Like, all three of you who like Gundam on the TNM Patreon. But Power Rangers was my childhood, particularly this like being a 90s kid. I loved Power Rangers growing up, and like, again, clear splat vinyl, all the colours of the Rangers. You've got the pink, red, blue, and black all in there, and yellow. And like, here's the thing, right? The reason I picked this one is because the Power Rangers main theme is a metal song. Like, that main riff, there's got like a thrash metal riff in there, and it is big cheesy power metal, and it goes hard, and I love it. And I just thought, I was like, huh, I'm sure there will be some of you, like, again, out there who grew up watching Power Rangers and were like, yeah, that's pretty cool, actually. So the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers soundtrack on vinyl. Yeah. So yeah, that's just a kind of like first taster of some of the stuff in my record collection. I'll do another one of these at some point and go through some of the other stuff, shove some more of my video game soundtracks and all that sort of stuff. But been kind of cool to just chat about some of this stuff. And sorry for I ramble incoherently. It's one of those things I do. Pairing is way more structured with this sort of stuff. But I just kind of wing it, and like on the podcast I have on my notes, but I talk a lot, I talk fast, and so sorry for it being quite incoherent. But hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll catch you again soon for one of these. Peace out.